All right, I think I'm going to go ahead and get started. Sounds like my mic is on. Can you guys hear me okay? Yes, awesome. I only recognize two of you as being students of mine, so just out of curiosity, what degrees are you guys working on? Where are you from? Are you all from the English department, or what are you doing? Accounting. Accounting, really? And I don't know you. What about the rest of you? All just working on gen eds, have an English course? Are you getting extra credit for being here? I guess that's what I want to know. Oh, wow, good for you. Good for you. All right, well, my name is Jennifer Knopf, and I'm obviously going to be talking about numbers. Why would I be talking about numbers? I teach accounting here in the business department, and so obviously you're here to learn about who cares, why bother, and specifically as it relates to the accounting field, and why do we need to be able to write. So who is Jennifer Knopf? Who's this random person standing in front of you? I have my education and my experience up here. I'm going to kind of bounce back and forth. I am not all that unlike you guys. I started here at CC, and the reason I came here and the reason I got an associate's in business and accounting is because I took an accounting class in high school, and I knew from the minute I took that one accounting class that I loved numbers. I was a very organized person, very detail-oriented, and I knew that accounting was the thing for me. Now, a lot of you, maybe you've already changed your major once. Maybe you are like me and you're just going to stick with the same thing all the way through. Everybody's kind of different. Some people change halfway through. But I never did because I knew I loved numbers. And ironically, back then in high school, I said I hate writing. And I don't know if you have that same feeling or not, but I hated writing. And I thought this is a win-win for me because in accounting, you don't have to write, right? I'm here to tell you today that that's unfortunately not true. But that was the impression that I had. So I came here, CC. While I was here, I picked up a few internships, a few jobs in private accounting. I'll talk about the difference between private accounting and public accounting on the next slide. But in private accounting up there, it says I have 5 years of experience. I worked for a manufacturing company, just working in accounts payable, basically entering in bills and paying them. So that was just a part-time job. And then my grandmother used to own a business called Rapid Air. If any of you are familiar with Gerald R. Ford Airport, there's two FBOs out there they fly the smaller aircraft, the Cessna 310s pretty much. And so there's Northern Air and there's Rapid Air. So my grandmother used to own Rapid Air, and so I went out there and I did accounting for her as well. So this was all still while I was at GRCC. And I realized that as I was getting that experience, I still loved accounting. So that kind of kept me motivated to continue working on my associate's degree. So then I went on to Grand Valley and graduated there in 2003. When I was there, you'll notice public accounting is listed up there for a year and a half. When I was there, they highly recommend doing an internship. And so even though I already had experience in private accounting, working for one company, doing their accounting, they still highly recommended trying public accounting. And I had no idea what public accounting was. Public accounting is basically where you audit different companies and you verify that their financial statements are accurate. And so I tried it. I went to work for Plant Moran, and that was actually pretty nice because that was it says I graduated in 2003, but I did my internship in 2001, or 2002 rather, winter of 2002, tax season of 2002. And so I got a lot of really good experience, but the best part about it was at the very end, they said, we love what you did for us. We want you to come back. And so please go finish your bachelor's degree at Grand Valley and come back. You have a job waiting for you in January of 2004. So that was awesome to know that my job was just waiting for me. All I had to do was finish my degree. So I went back after I graduated in 2003. I went back January of 2004. I worked for an entire year, enough to get my experience. The next thing down is I got certified as a CPA. Does anybody know the 3 things that it takes to become a CPA? Jake or Evan or... There's a certain number of hours, so it used to be 2 years, it's only 1 year. So yes, you're right, there's 1 year of experience. What else is there? Yeah. You have to pass 4 parts to the CPA exam. You used to be able to do it, you used to have to do it all at once in 2 days, but now you can take it in 4 sections. And what's the third thing? My other accounting guy, what's your name? Simon? It's actually 150 credits. So how many credits do you roughly get when you get a bachelor's degree? Do you know? How many do you get for your associate's degree? 60-ish, right? 61, 62-ish, somewhere in there. So a bachelor's degree is double that. So a bachelor's degree is about 120. They're saying you need to have 150 Do you know how many credits it is to get a master's? About another 30 or 33. So essentially what they did is they said you pretty much have to get your master's in order to be certified as a CPA under the new rules. And so another thing that I had to do was accomplish that. But they basically said at Plant Moran, which is where I was working in public accounting, you know, come back. So I got the job. I went back for all of 2004, and I still wasn't certified at that point yet because I hadn't taken the exam. I had my experience, and I hadn't gotten the 150 credits. So you'll notice there's a huge gap between 2003 and 2014. What the heck happened to me? Well, in 2007, I had my son. And then I ended up having 3 kids. So what was I doing during that time? I wasn't just, I shouldn't say I wasn't just a stay-at-home mom, because that's a very important job. But I came back here and I started teaching in 2005 before I had my son. And that worked out great because I could teach just as an adjunct. Right now I'm actually full-time. But back then I was teaching just part-time, and so that worked out great. And now it says 2015. I'm not technically done yet with my MBA. I'm literally taking my last class, Global Competitiveness, over at Grand Valley, and I'll be done on December 12th. So that's kind of the history. Yay, thank you. Very, very excited about that. The other thing I didn't mention up there was being a professional tutor. I know a lot of you have used the tutor labs on campus in various different departments. There's a math tutor lab, there's an English tutor lab, there's the business accounting lab, and so I used to work in there for 2 years as well. So I feel like I've kind of bounced around a little bit of everywhere and tried accounting in a little bit of every field, but I feel like I'm finally at home. I've been teaching for 10 years, so since 2005. I absolutely love it here, and so when they asked me to come speak to you today about why accounting isn't just about numbers and about why you need to be able to write, I was more than happy to do that. So here I am. Okay, so speaking of accounting, some of you probably coming in here, maybe you didn't know by the description that it was about accounting, you just knew that it had to do something with numbers. But I like to talk about the different myths in accounting, and the first one right in the middle is the reason why I'm here. A lot of people think I'm not good at writing, I want to be an accountant. So that I don't have to do any writing. Well, I'm going to show you that that's not necessarily true. But going all the way up to the upper left-hand corner, some of you may have come in here with the stereotype in your mind of what an accountant looks like. Have you ever seen this stereotype, seen a guy with a green visor, pencil behind the ear? Have you heard of this stereotype? That's what they look like? Any of you? Bean counters, right? And the stereotype is that they're very, very boring people, right? Right? Do you think I'm boring? No. So when I went in, thank you, by the way. When I went into public accounting, that was one of the things that just floored me, is I thought accountants pretty much were boring. They just sat at their desk all day, and they like to crunch numbers, and they like to be left alone. But in public accounting, you have to have very, very good people skills. You have to be able to interact with clients, with customers, with colleagues, with a lot of different people. And so we are not like the guy behind the desk there. There are accounting jobs where you can just sit in a cubicle all day and crunch numbers if you want to. But I would say the majority of accounting positions, you have to be able to interact with other people and be really good at it because your clients are paying you, and they're paying you a lot of money. What do you think the next one down is? The guy with the brain open. Can you see there's some numbers there? What do you think that myth is?
Oh, you're good at math.
You're good at math. Do you have to be really good at complicated math? No. So they've got all these complicated formulas up here, and somebody actually just recently, before the semester started, I was telling a friend of the family, I said, you should really try and take an accounting class. And she said to me, oh, that scares me, because isn't accounting like the most difficult course, like after you've taken calculus and geometry, and isn't it like the highest? And I laughed right in her face. And I didn't mean to, but literally, Evan, what kind of math do you use in accounting? Basic math. If you can add, subtract, multiply, and divide, you're pretty much good to go, right, Jake? That's pretty basic math, right? So it doesn't, what's that? A little bit of algebra, right? For the most part, I tell my students, bring a basic calculator. You don't need a graphing calculator. You don't need anything high-tech, just a basic calculator. All right, what about the guy carrying the tax sign there? What do you think that myth is? All accountants are tax accountants. I'm here to tell you tax accounting and financial accounting is not the same. I can't stand taxes. I had experience in taxes enough to know that I will never prepare taxes ever again in my life. I don't even do my own taxes anymore. Tax accounting and regular accounting is totally different. If you come take my BA 256 class, you'll learn the difference between the two. But those are not the same. What about the woman with the X across it? What do you think that myth is? All guys. It's actually 60% of the people that work in the accounting field are actually women now. So we've overtaken the men. So the majority are women. They also say another myth is that accountants are not, or this is finance too, so not just accountants, but accountants are not very creative, right? So I laugh about that because I think about a post that I just put on Instagram. Do you guys use Instagram? Facebook? Sure, every once in a while. Okay, I just posted a picture of the pumpkins that we carved with my kids, and I like to think that we didn't do such a bad job, especially me for an accountant, because for somebody who's not known to be very creative, I think I did a pretty good job, right? So there are accountants out there, the whole left brain, right brain theory, you're not necessarily not creative if you like numbers, right? So you can have a little bit of both. And they also make very good entrepreneurs. So if any of you aspire to own your own business someday, accountants, a lot of times that skill can help you a great deal. A good friend of mine just started a yoga business, and I was literally just at her house last night for 3 hours. I think I left her house at like 11 o'clock. And we were sitting there trying to figure out, has her business made any money? She opened her business back in January of this year, and so we've been trying to figure out, she's got, you know, like the stereotypical client that comes to you with a box of receipts and has no idea where their business is. I'm trying to help her figure that out. And so if you have that skill and you aspire to own your own business, those two go great together. This picture here of the computer and the hand coming out, one of the myths is that technology is kind of taking over and getting rid of the need for accountants. I'll be the first one to tell you that that's not true. Yes, computers are great, and yes, they can do a lot of things, but the one thing they can't do is they can't tell the computer when a transaction has taken place. The computer does not know that you just paid your employees. They don't know that you went and bought more assets. They don't know that you started a business. They don't know any of that stuff. And so you've got the hand reaching out, typing something, right? You still need somebody until the computer can actually reach out and type the information as far as what happened in real life. Until that happens, we still need accountants, which is a good thing because that's job security for us accountants. Upper right-hand corner, a lot of people think you're not going to make very good money if you go into any field in accounting, and I'll also tell you that that's not true. Right now, if you graduate with a 4-year degree, a bachelor's degree in accounting, usually you start off at about 50, 55-ish, depending on where you go, $55,000 a year, and then really the sky's the limit from there. I'll talk about some of the different career opportunities, but some of the partners in the firms where I've worked or audited before, they were making $200,000 to $300,000 a year. So you can do very, very well in the field of accounting. Quickbooks. My friend that I told you that is owning her own business, she asked me as I start to do my accounting and put everything together, I have the Quickbooks program. Should I just use that? A lot of people think, I don't need an accountant, I have Quickbooks. Well, the problem with Quickbooks is it pretty much lets you do anything in that system. It's meant to be very, very easy to allow anybody to use it and be able to enter in transactions. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of safeguards in there. And so I'm kind of working with her on that and telling her your business is just getting started, so maybe we can just use some spreadsheets for now. So anyway, QuickBooks isn't necessarily the answer to everything. So then there's this link down here. There's a little video that I wanted to show you really quick. I thought was kind of funny that I found when I was preparing for this.
Surprised you like the Emmys, Sheldon.
I don't. In my experience, when that many popular people get together in one place, the next thing that happens is the quarterback and prom king are holding my head in the toilet.
Well, they're not all popular. The writers are there, too.
He only watches it to see the accountants.
What? Aren't those the guys that just add up the votes?
Just add up the votes, Penny. These men and women are mathematicians. They are the intellectual heirs of Pythagoras, Euclid, and the Count from Sesame Street. It's two votes for Game of Thrones.
I said, never thought about it like that.
Nobody has.
Well, they should.
The accountants
Here
of
they
Ernst
come.
& Young.
Look who it is. Andy Sale. I met him once. As certified public accountants go, he's actually very down to earth. Oh, Oh, and straight out of Belgium, it's Mika Velge. In the CPA fan club, we call her the mental muscles from Brussels. Oh, yeah, it's John, the human spreadsheet Nendick. It's good to see him back in action after he blew out his clicking finger during a PowerPoint presentation. You're a hero, John. CPA, 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 CPA.
See, we're not so bad, right? CPAs are pretty cool. Oops.
Ladies and gentlemen, Seth.
Let's escape them. There we go. I honestly never put any thought into those awards and when the CPAs came out, but now that I am one, I'm like, yeah, CPA, I'm right along there with them cheering. So anyway, those are the myths about accounting and the fact that those don't really hold true. The career opportunities, I touched on a few of those. In the upper left-hand corner, this is my picture for private accounting. Private accounting means you go to work for one company. You don't necessarily always sit in a cubicle. You can have a really nice desk, right? If you work your way up, eventually you can be CFO, certified financial officer, or you can be the CEO, or you can be the owner of the company. So it's not necessarily always going to be a cubicle, but your job is to work for one company, and you live and you breathe their financial statements. And how well is this company doing? If you own your own business, eventually, you know, you would be the accountant for your own business. The one in the middle, we've got a person traveling. I tried to find something as close to an audit bag as I could find. An audit bag is where you used to have to drag a whole bunch of stuff with you when you go to audit clients. Again, your job is to, if you work for one of the bigger accounting firms, they mentioned Ernst & Young in the video. They're one of the big 4 accounting firms. You're traveling a lot, and you could be traveling nationwide. You could be traveling internationally. So you have to travel a lot for your clients, but you don't have to. I worked for Plant Moran, and I traveled just around Grand Rapids. So I would drive up to Ferris, or I would drive to one of the local hospitals, or a lot of the schools. There was just kind of a lot of local work that needed to be done as well. Either way, you are at a different client all the time, so you're interacting with people constantly. Do any of you guys like the idea of working with a new set of people every week or every other week? Or do you like working with the same people and over and over and over again, just out of curiosity? Same people? How many hands for you like to work for one company, same people all the time? Okay? How many hands for you might not mind seeing new people every week or so? So it's kind of split half and half. That was one of the benefits of public accounting. You get to meet new people all the time. That's honestly one of my favorite parts of my job right now is you guys change every semester. You all pretty much stay the same age, but it's a new group of people every semester, and I love that about my job. Lower left-hand corner, the IRS, you've got the different forms that you need to file or fill out. You can get an accounting degree and prepare tax returns. As I shared, I have no desire to do that, but that's definitely a field that you can get into. And as it relates to writing, you're going to have to be corresponding with the IRS. Who's the IRS? Internal Revenue Service. So, right, they collect taxes, so you have to, talk to the bad guys, if you will. What about the Bank of America there? What can you do with an accounting degree as it relates to a bank? Compliance. You can work at a bank and you can decide whether or not people should be getting loans, right? There's a lot of different positions within the banking system, so you can work for them. The FBI. Do any of you ever want to work for the FBI? Yeah? What do you want to do for the FBI? You want to kick down doors. All right. Well, yeah, you could carry a gun, work for the FBI. Have you ever thought about the field of accounting? The FBI definitely is in need of accountants, and specific the field that you'd be going into is forensic accounting. So forensic accounting, you become certified as a forensic auditor to go in and audit the companies that are involved in fraud. So if that gets you excited at all to eventually work for the FBI, that's one thing that you could do. And then you got the guy down here. He's got the light bulb above his head. It's just meant to represent entrepreneurs, right? Again, if you aspire to be an entrepreneur someday and own your own business, then knowing how to do accounting is a great skill to have. All right, so we finally need to talk about, whoa, went a little bit too fast there. Writing, and the whole reason why you're here. So what is it in accounting, the field of accounting or the field of finance, that you need to be doing as far as writing? The type of writing, so we've got Snoopy here. Dear IRS, I'm writing to you to cancel my subscription. Please remove my name from your mailing list. Do you think that would work? Wouldn't we like to try, though, right? We would, right? So sometimes you have to be very persuasive. First one, be very aware of who your audience is. So there are times when you are sending emails to clients. Sometimes those clients have no idea what the tax code says, or they have no idea what the auditing rules are, the accounting rules are. And so you have to be aware of the fact that you're talking to somebody that has no idea what you're talking about. Other times you're talking to people that, or writing to people that know exactly what you're talking about. So you have to be very aware of your audience. Clear purpose, obviously. Are we trying to just inform somebody? Are you trying to argue your point, try and be persuasive? Are you trying to recommend a certain way to handle a tax treatment or an accounting rule? You have to be very accurate, as you can imagine, because why? Why do we want to be accurate? That's the whole point of accounting, but you're trying to accurately represent the company's financial position. So we want to be very concise, very direct, very straight to the point. There's a lot of technical writing in accounting. You have to be very clear. Organization, that's huge. If you love to have things organized in your life, and clean, and like your room is clean and everything, you know, you have checklists for everything, you might be a good accountant, all right? The appropriate format. So there's obviously, we're going to talk about different like emails and letters and memos and all kinds of things. So you have to make sure that you're using the appropriate format. And we don't want to have errors. In accounting, that's one big thing is if your numbers are wrong, that's huge, right? And you're trying to explain something, you certainly don't want to have an error in there. Tacking on a few zeros or losing a few zeros could be huge. All right, so you've got these guys off to the right. I started out in creative writing, began dabbling a little bit in creative finance and accounting, and before I knew it, wound up here. Where are they? They're in jail, right? So I'm not here to talk about creative writing. We don't do creative writing in accounting. It's all very accurate and concise and factual, right? But you have to be able to describe things and be able to explain things very well. So emails. Whether they're, just like the next one down, emails and letters, whether you're emailing or sending a letter to a client or a colleague or to the governmental agency, whether it be the FBI or the IRS, you need to be able to be aware of that audience and be very concise and direct. As it says, you can work on building your relationships with those individuals, responding to requests, making recommendations, initiating actions. The section that I want to focus the most on is that second to last one, the reporting component. So has anybody ever heard of a walkthrough? What is a walkthrough, Evan? Walking through the steps of doing something. So this was probably the time in my life as an accountant where I did the most writing. A walkthrough, when you're on an audit, you go to a client and one of the things you have to do is you have to test something called internal controls. So this literally involves going to an accounting department and you sit down with people that work in accounts payable, the people that pay their bills. You sit down with payroll. You sit down with accounts receivable, the people that collect money from their customers. And you literally listen to them on the first day of, this is a new audit, by the way, you listen to them describe what it is that their job entails. And you walk through verbally with them their entire system. And so maybe, for example, for payroll, they would say, here are 5 employees out of the 5,000 that we have, but here's 5 employees. This is how I get their timesheet. This is how I calculate their wages. This is how I know in the system what taxes come out and if they have child support or whatever the deductions are. And then this is who cuts the check, and this is who signs the check, and this is how the check gets back to the customer or to the employee. So that's called a walkthrough. So I would have to listen to that, and then what would I have to do after that as it relates to writing? What do you think I'd have to do? You have to write a report. You have to literally sit down after you just learned something completely new and then be very clear and concise and report it. Basically write up a write-up and be able to explain it to somebody else, which is very challenging. So we're not only talking about writing skills, we're also talking about listening skills, right? Being able to listen to somebody, understand it, and then also be able to write it enough where you can explain it to somebody else. And that's not an easy thing to do. Evaluations. One thing that I never thought I was going to have to do, and I thought it was just a public accounting thing, but I found out it's not just public, it's not just private, it's also now here at the college, and maybe you've had similar experiences. But when I get reviewed at the end of a year or a quarter or whenever it is, I don't have a boss or somebody that sits down and says, okay, Jennifer, how have you been doing? And I'm going to do a report of how well you've been doing. I have found that in every position I've had so far in the accounting field, I have to create a report, call it a portfolio, which is what I do here at CC. I'm the one that has to tell my boss or whoever's looking at it how I've been doing. So basically what type of writing that is it's bragging about yourself. It's persuasive writing, right? You're trying to persuade somebody that you've been stellar the last year, you've been doing an awesome job, and this is why they should A, keep you, or B, give you a raise, or both, right? Have any of you ever had to do that? Write a review for yourself to prove how well you've been doing? No, I didn't think so, because at your age, you raise your hand? Where do you work? At Amway. So you've had the similar experience, where, is it just once a year? Quarterly. Wow, you have to do it even more often. That's kind of a weird experience, isn't it? You're sitting there bragging about yourself, trying to convince somebody that I'm doing a good job. So trust me, if you haven't had to do it yet, eventually you will. So you want to get really good at recapping everything that makes you awesome, and then prove to somebody that you deserve to keep your job. Audit results kind of goes hand in hand with the walkthroughs. You do a test of some sort of accounts receivable or accounts payable, and then you have to, document it, write it up. Describing things. So instead of public accounting, in private accounting, if I go back to the cubicle there, you have in private accounting, you have daily tasks that you have to do. You have monthly tasks. And sometimes you're sick, or sometimes you have a baby. Sometimes you have 3 babies, like I did, right? And so you have to leave on maternity leave, or you go on vacation. Somebody's always going on vacation. If you're going to leave your job for a week, you need to give very clear instructions to whoever's going to take over for you. And so when I say job descriptions, or process descriptions, sometimes you just have to be very good at, again, describing this is what I do on a daily basis, or this is what this process entails. So you have to be very clear, very concise, very specific, very detailed, very accurate. You got to give them every step, otherwise they're going to be lost and they're going to be calling you while you're on vacation. Do you want somebody calling you while you're on vacation? No, I don't want somebody calling me while I'm on vacation. All right, a 10K. I probably won't bring up the 10K here, but a 10K report is companies that are publicly traded. Do you know what it means to be publicly traded? Yes? It does what? They sell their stock to the public, right? So they have their initial public offering, they sell their stock to the public. Companies that are publicly traded are overseen by the SEC. If you ever go to the SEC website, it's just sec.gov, you can look up financial statements for any company that's publicly traded. I do this in my BA 256 class, and so the 10K is the annual report that they put up there that basically if you come to my class and you learn about financial statements take up a very small portion of that annual report. The rest of the, Evan, do you remember how many pages there were? Roughly 100 or 200 pages? Depends on the size of the company, but there could easily be a couple hundred pages that go along with those financial statements. And so what that tells you right there is what? A couple hundred pages of what? Why are we here today? Of writing, where you are, like the title of my presentation, numbers don't explain everything. You have to show statements, but then you also have to describe what those statements are saying, because it's not always so obvious just looking at the numbers. Professional certification exams. So if you go on to be certified as a public accountant, or you can be certified managerial accountant or forensic accounting, there's different certification exams to take. Typically writing is a huge component of that because they want to make sure that you can write and you can write effectively. Dang it, right? I went into accounting because I didn't want to have to write. There's a lot of writing in accounting, but that's okay. I've learned to like it. Other skills that you need: critical thinking, critical reading. Lower left-hand corner there, all jobs now require people skills. I would probably argue that that is true, at least to some extent. Problem solving, researching. If you go far enough in accounting, especially if you stay in public accounting, you do have to be able to do a lot of research to make sure that companies are following the right accounting rules. And if they're not, you need to be able to tell them how to fix it. And then, of course, keep calm and analyze. We like to analyze data, right? So a couple things I want to add to that is, question for you guys. When you guys are studying right now, because you obviously at some point have to study for your classes, when you study, do you sit in a room that's completely quiet? How many of you sit in a room that's completely quiet? What do the rest of you do? You listen to music. What if it's something you're reading? You listen to music and be reading at the same time? Really? The rest of you, have you learned this skill? Yes? Is it because you're being forced, because there's so many distractions going on in your life that you're being forced to have those noises, or you choose to have that noise there? You choose to? It's actually a very good skill to have. When I was in high school and early college, I was the person that had to sit there and everything had to be really quiet. I used to get mad at my brother, I'd get mad at my mom, I'd be like, just leave me alone. Slam the door, it's got to be quiet. Well, if you're in auditing or even in private accounting, you got to get really used to stuff going on around you all the time, and you still have to be able to write. So I encourage you not necessarily to always listen to music, because music's a little bit different, because that can be very distracting. But try not to always sit where it's extremely quiet, because you need to be able to write when there is a lot of stuff going on around you. Just to give you a real-life example, on those audits, typically your team would sit all in one big conference room. And so you can have a team of like 5 to 10 people sitting there. They're all talking about something different. You're sitting over there trying to type up your walkthrough, trying to explain to somebody how that process works. And at the same time, they want you to do it quick. Here's the other part of it. Don't just get used to writing quickly. Be able to do it with the noise at the same time. So I was notorious for the one that always took too long on the audits. They were looking at me like, Jennifer, why aren't you done auditing receivables or auditing cash yet? It was because I was so used to sitting in a quiet room and just having my own space and working at my own pace and taking as long as I want. My students will attest to this. When I give exams, I'm still extremely nice and I give them as much time as they possibly want. I probably should stop doing that, because in the real world, you are given time constraints and you do have to eventually get used to that. So those are definitely 2 skills that I would highly recommend. And that's pretty much what I have to say about writing and why you need that in the field of accounting. So curious if you have any questions about anything I talked about. Did I recruit anybody? CPA. Anybody's going to go into accounting now? Did I scare all of you? You guys look terrified now. I didn't scare you, did I? No. Accounting is an awesome field to get into. There's a lot of career opportunities in the field of accounting. So having said that, if I sparked any interest whatsoever, my office is 304 College Park Plaza, and there's my email there. If you're at all interested and want to talk to me, I'm available. Just send me an email. All right? Thank you for your time today. Hi. Yeah. Need extra credit?
Yeah, basically. I've always kind of wondered about this. Like,
About accounting?
yeah, like I'm not a huge fan of numbers, but I really like writing.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I guess I'm good with numbers.
Do you like math in general? Did you like algebra?
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Okay, so you're undecided at this point about what you want to do?
I'm a little more inclined to algebra.
Ooh, that's like music to my ears. Did you catch my email? Send me an email sometime. Let me put this back on. If you ever want to talk, I'm more than willing to do that. I have office hours on Thursdays, actually right now, 3:30 to 5:30. So if you ever want to just bounce some ideas off me, I'm more than willing to do that, okay?
Really sparked my interest.
Yeah, what's your name?
Kaylee.
Okay, nice to meet you. Hi.
I gave you the extra credit.
Awesome. I have to sign something then. Oops, I need to turn this off.